Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm the Tilted Crown Gourmet. Super excited to bring to you my version of Coq Au Vin, the French classic. First popularized by Julia Childs in her book, The Joy of French Cooking. In this dish, you have crispy bacon, succulent chicken, mushrooms, pearl onions, and don't forget, amazing red wine. I hope you try this recipe because it's absolutely show-stopping. And if you're wanting one of these elegant dishes for company, this is the one for you. What's even better, it's slow cooked in the oven, therefore a lot of your time, the last 40 minutes, is hands off. So if you're ready, let's roll up those sleeves, let's get some prep done, and let's get cooking. This, of course, as I said earlier, is a Julia Childs inspired recipe. However, I am definitely taking some license with this one. If you want to see the full original Julia Childs version, just give me a shout out down in the comments and let me know that you want to see the elongated, full-fledged Julia Childs version. But this is the Tilted Crown Gourmet's version of the Julia Childs version of Coq Au Vin. One of the first steps that I take is I'm going to be peeling my pearl onions. A lot of people will get the frozen ones that are already peeled, which is perfectly fine. I found some fresh ones. I prefer the fresh ones, so I'm going to show you how to peel them. There are two ways. I'm going to show you only one. I'll explain the other one. You can get a pot of boiling water, have it at a high boil, put your onions in for about 10 seconds. You'll then pull them out, and at that point cut off the top and the bottom, and they should peel, the peel should come straight off. The other way is the way that I'm going to show you. Again, you're going to cut the top and the bottom, and then you'll slice down the side and peel away the skin. So as I said, just go ahead and cut off the top, cut off the bottom, do a little slit, and that will peel right off. And it's one of those things where it does take a little extra time, but that's okay. I actually did the rest of these while I was sitting watching TV. So it was not that big of a deal. And there you have your, there you have your onion. Let's do it again. So it's pretty simple. Gonna slice off the bottom, slice off the top, do a little slit, and then that will peel right off. Just like that. And that's how you end up with a nice pearl onion that's going to be ready to saute. Another step in my process is to I wash these. I normally don't wash my mushrooms, but these were rather dirty today. So I washed them and I dried them. And so now I'm going to get them and I'm going to quarter them. If you have really small mushrooms, then there's no need to quarter them. These, or if they're medium size, you could just cut them in half. But these are a little bit on the larger side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna quarter them. And remember what I always say, when it comes to veggies and things of that nature, you'll sometimes see this recipe done with carrots. Now, in the original Julia Childs version, it was not made with carrots, but some people like carrots, so they put carrots in it. Other people, instead of using the pearl mushrooms, they may use diced onion, or they may use shallot as a substitute. But I am gonna try to do it as traditional as possible. The one step that I am omitting is one of the steps that Julia Childs does is she boils her bacon.
I don't believe that step is necessary. She boils it and then she renders the fat after that. I think that's an unnecessary step, and I don't believe that it really adds anything to the dish in this particular day and age. So I do skip that step. Beyond that, it's pretty much accurate. The other thing that she does is she didn't put her Coq Au Vin in the oven. She did it on the stovetop, which is perfectly fine. However, there's a fear for me that it could burn on the stovetop. Plus, in the oven, you have a much more even heat. So I prefer to use the oven versus the stovetop when I'm braising meats. Let's go ahead and dice up our garlic. And again, make this the size that you want. If you want it finer, make it finer. If you want it chunkier, make it chunkier. There are actually multiple recipes for this that would tell you just to smash the garlic. And if you want to smash it, that's fine. Other people will run it through a mill, and that's fine too. However, the way that I'm cooking this, I feel that if I ran it through a mill or through a press, it would be too fine and it would be more prone to burn. And as you know, burnt garlic is very bitter, and I don't want any bitter notes in my Coq Au Vin. Put that aside until we need it later. Also, I went out to my garden and I pulled some fresh thyme and pulled it off the stem. Part of the recipes usually have you put the thyme sprigs into the pot and then you fish out the stem later. What's the point? Just go ahead and pull it off early. You could also use dry thyme. However, I do prefer fresh thyme. I'm gonna go ahead and dry off my chicken. Now these are chicken thighs. These are skin on, bone in chicken thighs. You could also, and it's about 3 pounds, you could also use legs. I would not recommend using a breast. You want bone in. What you could do is you could get a chicken, a small one, and you could simply cut it up into pieces, and you would have your light and dark meat and use that instead. However, these chicken thighs, bone in, skin on chicken thighs, happen to be on sale. So I picked them up for 50% off, and I was happy to find them. I think they got an oversupply at the supermarket, so I found these, and I like thighs, and I like specifically bone-in, skin-on thighs for my Coq Au Vin. It's important to go ahead and salt and pepper both sides of your chicken. Now I do salt and pepper the skin side first, and the reason I do that is when we start to render our chicken, we're going to be doing it skin side down, and I want to make sure that that seasoning gets nicely stuck onto our chicken skin, because that just really gives us a ton of flavor. And you notice I'm not using the same hand that I flipped the chicken with, sticking it in my salt. And now we're just gonna let this sit for a few minutes before we continue. Next, we have our bacon. Like I said before, I am not gonna pre-boil this bacon and then fry it. I think it kind of defeats the point of the bacon. And we're just gonna cut it into our, what Julie would call lardons. So we're just gonna give them a cut, about the same size. And then we're gonna set this aside until we're ready for it in just a few minutes. I am preheating my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 180 degrees Celsius, actually 177, but We'll just call it 180 to make it a round number. We're gonna start by getting our bacon done. So over a medium heat, we're gonna add butter. I know, kind of counterintuitive, but this is, of course, Julia Childs. She is known for her love of butter. And we, of course, know that the French are known for their love of butter. So we're gonna start by adding some butter to our pan and letting it melt. Now that our butter's melted, let's go ahead and add in our bacon. Okay, so our bacon is rendered. We're not trying to get it super crispy, but we are rendering out the fat. We're gonna pull that out with a slotted spoon, and because we want to leave our butter and our rendered fat in our pan. Okay, so now that that's out, we are gonna place our chicken in skin side down. Oops, see, I missed a piece of bacon. Out you go. I'm gonna go check our chicken. So we're looking for that. We're looking for a kind of a golden brown. And we can flip that over. Now after about 2 to 3 minutes on that second side, I'm gonna put in my cognac. My lighter didn't want to work. Just gonna have to move that around until those flames subside. Now I'm gonna pull the chicken out and put it on my platter, on my baking sheet. Now, of course, this chicken is not cooked through. It will cook the rest of the way when it's being braised. Now what I do is I pour out this oil, because there's a lot of oil right now, and I pour most of it out. Go back on the stove, and now I add in more butter, because we know more butter, more better. And then we're gonna add in our mushrooms. The mushrooms will help, once they release their moisture, will help deglaze this pan. Feel free to add a little bit of salt and pepper to your mushrooms if you so choose. I have a tendency to like to season each step. So now that our mushrooms are sauteed, we're gonna pull those out. Don't those look fantastic? So now into our oil and butter, we're gonna be adding in our onions. After about 10 minutes, those are nice and brown. They're kind of golden. They're not going to be even. Don't expect that yours are going to be even, because they won't be. And then next we're going to add in our garlic, and we're going to cook that for about 1 minute. Because remember, once you start to smell that garlic, it's done. After the garlic, we want to add in our tomato paste. We want to cook this for about 2 minutes. Should become a nice rusty color. You want to cook out any of that kind of tinny flavor out of them. Next we're going to add in our flour. Mine's a little dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of that oil and butter that I had taken out earlier. I'm adding a little bit of it back in. Basically we're making a roux. Now we want to add in our beef stock, and we want to add it in slowly because we don't want to have a bunch of lumps. Next, I add my chicken back in, niffle that in, and I do pour in those resting juices. I put in enough red wine to cover. Here we give everything a good stir. My mushrooms and their accumulated juices go back in. Gonna put in our salt and pepper, followed by our thyme, our bacon, and our bay leaf. We want to bring this up to a simmer. Once it's at a simmer, I'm going to cover it and then put it in the oven for 45 minutes. We are now at a light simmer. Going to cover it up, and we're going to put this in the oven. Set our timer for 45 minutes. In the meantime, I have peeled my potatoes and put them in some water because I'm going to be making some parsley potatoes with Parmesan, and I've also put a stick of butter in a pan and set it on the stove, and to that I'm going to be adding my heavy cream because I don't want my heavy cream and my butter to be super cold. I want them to be warm, not hot, just warm when it comes time for my potatoes. Furthermore, I've put my water on low so it can start heating up, because at 30 minutes or just before 30 minutes I'm going to switch it to the higher burner and on a higher heat to get that water boiling to put my potatoes in, because they take approximately 30 minutes to cook through. So that way when the Coq Au Vin is finished, my mashed potatoes will be done as well. My water is getting warm. I'm going to go ahead and slide my potatoes in there. And if you wanted to, you could also put in some garlic if you wanted to add a little bit of garlic to your mashed potatoes. Grate up some parm. I do it on the feather part because we want it to melt really quickly in our mashed potatoes. Now that we're at a boil, we're going to lower the heat, put a lid on, and come back in 30 minutes. Our potatoes are done. I'm going to pull them off and drain the water out. So our warmed up cream and butter, our sour cream. Add in our salt, our parsley, and our Parmesan. Everything a good mix. Perfect. And as we've left it in the warm pot, I'm going to pop the lid back on. And these are ready for when our Coq Au Vin comes out, and it's due out in 1 minute and 25 seconds. And our Coq Au Vin is ready. So out of the oven it comes. See how our sauce is. It does coat the back of the spoon. It's perfect. To serve, we're gonna get our mashed potatoes, put them on our plate or on our shallow bowl. Take one thigh, put it on top. Let's get some of those mushrooms and onions. Definitely put those on top, and get me some of that luscious sauce. Just ladle that over the top. And last but not least, I'm gonna add some parsley.
Remember, your kitchen is your passport to the world, allowing you to explore diverse cultures and cuisines right from home as you explore new flavors and techniques. And as always, Bon appetit.